I want all of you to have some quiet time now. Try considering two kids living in different regions, one in Singapore and one in Indonesia. They're both sitting in devices, learning to achieve something new. But their outcomes and their experience are different and worlds apart. Good morning, other educators, teachers, parents, and my fellow friends. My name is Joe from grade 12 Overboiled, and today I will present you the research that I conducted entitled Digital. Is it next? I haven't seen next. Conducted in which entitled Digital Learning Has Affecting High School Students' Academic Achievement. So what are we trying to know from this research? Is it digital learning? What does it correlate to academic achievement? And why does this matter? But do you guys remember back then in 2019, where there is no digital learning yet? We were still using papers and pens as our media to learn. We are new to it right now, and obviously no one is ready. Digital learning methods has brought out ways on accessing the knowledge through online platforms, virtual classrooms, and new interactive tools. While they provided flexibility and convenience, many students struggled with distractions, limited social interactions, and reduced motivation. These experiences reveal how digital learning reshaped the way we study and motivate. In correlation to the vision mission of this school, which is to raise a generation of leaders that fears God, fully developed, purpose-driven, and becoming to the answer to Indonesia and to the whole world through a high-quality Christian education. We believe that these people can be the answer not just for Indonesia, but to the whole world. Through a high-quality Christian education, we are expected to face real challenges, create solutions, and make a real difference. This is more than just education. This is a calling. It's also a movement, a vision for a better future, led by generations that fears God, lives with purpose, and leads with impact. That's why this mission matters. Because imagine what will happen to Indonesia without raising this kind of generation of leaders, where purpose is driven with personal gain and without for public goods, and power and decisions were driven by greed instead of integrity. But the good news is we are changing that, and we can change that. This research aligned with the sustainable goals, that particular SDG number 4, which is focused on quality education, as it aims to know how digital learning process affects students' outcomes. So let's get to our research focus and rundown. First, we have our case study, which is Indonesia versus Singapore comparative study. Then we have our supportive educational theories. Then lastly, we also have the impact of digital learning on academic achievement on statistical data. So this research is a comparative study between Singaporean and Indonesian students. The researcher used both qualitative and quantitative data gathered through a Google form specifically distributed to high school students. Then we also have questionnaire that is asked to experts based on their opinions. The intended design of this study was to have an equal number of respondents from each group with a target of 40-40 ratio. However, in this practice, there were 40 respondents from Indonesia and 50 from Singapore. This imbalance introduced a giant limitation from the fairness on a comparison, with more particular participants representing the Singaporean group. This data may carry the stronger influence from that group's perspective and experiences. To address this, the researcher will take it as imbalance into account while analyzing and discussing the findings, and transparently report it as a limitation of the study. Firstly, we're going to look into our first data, which is the duration of digital platform use of individuals. The options that the researcher gave them was never, rarely, often, and very often. Indonesia, with an average of 54% and in Singapore of 67% of them picking very often, suggests that students have been using their devices for some time now, and supposedly they mastered their competence of their own personal device. Next data are students' opinions effective of digital learning. Both regions believe it only as quite effective, and even 1 or 2 says it's not effective. So what does this prove? In Indonesia, the largest share of students in which 59% of them selecting often, followed by 27 of them saying very often. In Singapore, the pattern is very similar, with 65% of them of choosing often, though fewer students speaking very often, by 16%. And hardly anyone either group felt digital tools never made any difference with a better performance. Overall, students in both countries connect digital learning with better performance, with Singapore students leaning slightly towards more often, while Indonesia has a stronger side towards very often. The third data, it also shows that level of impact digital learning has affected to students' academic achievement is considered as high. And according to Tinjik and Norden, for crisis-driven digitalization and academic success across disciplines, studies suggest that crisis-driven digitalization during COVID-19 affected students' performance in both pass and grades. Master's students even adapted less than undergraduates, and international students face more difficulties in less diverse environment. The study shows that digital learning impacts students differently based on their field and background. However, according to Hyrnova and a Russian named Sapegno, influence on factors in the educational environment on the performance and scientific research of activities. The study explores on how elements in the educational environment integrated teaching and researching academic productivity, opportunities to keep development, critical thinking, and research performance. Then it also emphasized the role of supportive education context in enhancing the research outcomes among higher education learners. This digital clearly boosts learning outcomes, but when accessing and training are in place. This study highlights the importance of inclusive hybrid learning and the digital readiness for both students and teachers. Here, the researcher also have two experts that contributed to the study. Interviewed them personally with the specific questions answered by their experiences and their personal view. Introducing you to Mr. Lim San, he's a senior manager of SIT, and he's also an IT and computer expert. Then we have also Ms. Leni Hartono, which she's a founder and a president of Transformation Indonesia Community, with helps on consulting, counseling, and coaching, which she's also a psychologist. Well, now both experts suggest that digital learning has influenced both positively to high school learners especially. And I asked them, in your opinion, how has digital learning influenced academic achievement among high school students in the recent years? According to Ms. Leni Hartono, learning empowers students to learn better and more flexibility with more independently, while also enhancing the academic performance in the real world of application knowledge. However, according to Mr. Lim and San, digital learning benefits high school students by allowing them to re-review materials, stay engaged, build discipline, as well as focus. Other than that, it also provides easy access to resources and peer instruction, encouraging creativity and better quality work. However, this does not prove us anything without the direct opinion of the students. The following diagram will display all the challenges faced by individuals during the transition to a digital learning environment, starting from keeping up the materials, study focus, motivation, constant grade, and academic stress. These data are purely based on whatever individual experience and feel about digital learning. From the responses, it is clear that students in both Indonesia and Singapore face very similar struggles during the switch to digital environment. The biggest issue for both groups was staying focused, and while studying focused challenges will keep motivated and handling stress. A smaller number of students in both countries mentioned problems with grades or keeping up with the materials, but overall, the patterns suggest that focus and motivation are most common difficulties in adjusting the digital platforms. The study shows that both Indonesia and Singaporean have already built strong habits in using digital learning platforms. Both of them has been years recently to use new tools regularly and generally rate their experiences as positive. Singaporean students often scored highly in confidence rather than Indonesia. Singaporean students count it as frequency and effectiveness, but overall the pattern between the two countries were quite similar. At the same time, students in both groups still face challenges, especially focus, motivation, academic stress, which suggests while digital learning is widely accepted, it still needs better support to make the experience smoother and more effective. So as we move forward to this digital era, let's not just chase the digital era. We have to guide it, because digital learning is not just to teach. We have to connect it as well, because we don't just improve grades. And that we are also shaping a generation that learns without limits. To call it a day, this is the resource that I've been using as well for my research. To call it a day, let's shape digital learning that empowers, not divides. My name is Wiweko, and thank you for listening. God bless.